What's going on, everyone? This is Sheets, and we have a special Sunday live stream where we're going to be going over two sports. We're going to be talking about the MLB slate, which starts at 1:30, and we're also going to be doing a lineup build for the NASCAR Cup Series event. I can't promise you we'll do this every week, but just the timing of when I was able to get online kind of worked out. So what we're going to do is first, from about next half hour or so, talk about the MLB slate, do a couple of Saber Sim builds, and then we'll just transition straight into NASCAR, where we're not going to get too into any of the fundamentals because, quite honestly, I don't know that many of them. But we are going to be talking about how to build lineups given our projections using Saber Sim. We're on a lot of different channels right now, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to try to put them into the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them. And it's best to just kind of get moving. First thing to note is that it's a very compact and easy slate in that everything starts within 20 minutes of each other, which means it's not a really big deal about late swap or anything like that. The other thing to keep in mind is that I don't see any real weather concerns on this slate either. Okay. So it's a real straight, build your best lineups and beat everybody else. You're not going to have to be around to do a lot of fancy late swapping. You're not going to have to be tracking the weather. You just have to be a good lineup builder and just kind of get it rolling. The next thing I'll point out is that, and we are going to do FanDuel as well. FanDuel is a little bit different, I believe. Yeah, FanDuel is a lot more games, and it also spreads out. It gets into DeGrom and all this stuff. So we're going to do builds and views of both slates. First thing I'm going to take a look at are the projections, all right? And I don't do this too often, but I think it was worth doing today because when I'm looking at the DraftKings projections, the pitching is really, really weak today. The top-rated even value scores I have are $7,400, $7,300 pitchers, which means a couple of things. Number one, you don't need too much to get there. Additionally, you're probably going to be able to get to whatever hitters you want. As far as to answer your question, the Milwaukee pitcher, I don't know. It looks as like Logan Henderson is going to be pitching. And I guess I don't even have a projection on him yet, right? So what we're going to do in that case is we are going to probably just use the Saber Sim projection for him for now. So I guess that makes a lot of sense to do it that way. So let's take a look at the stacks and see what that looks like. Okay, let me pull up my stack ratings here. And again, this is not what we're playing. This is who looks good. And then we're going to see actually what we get to when we build with Saber Sim. So Milwaukee, since you mentioned it, Gabe, does rate to be as far as I rate them, kind of top stack and kind of tied for highest ownership along with Cleveland. So Milwaukee, Cleveland, as far as I rate them, are, really close to being the top stacks, but they're both going to be really highly owned. But what's interesting to note is that not far down on the list for me, at least, is Minnesota. And Minnesota, I'm seeing with much lower ownership. So if we get like a bunch of Minnesota, I'm not going to be particularly surprised. Okay. So as far as stacks, what I would expect is something like Milwaukee, Cleveland, and then probably Minnesota, Miami, maybe some stuff. It really depends on what type of settings you use. And then I don't want to get into too much of a Saber Sim discussion here, but since Saber Sim kind of rolled out this new beta, which is, I guess, now the alpha version, where they're putting a lot of emphasis on portfolio management, you're not getting that old, Saber Sim jam in the low-owned stacks look anymore. You're getting a lot more, I don't say chalk, but let's just say you're getting a lot more prudent portfolio management, So you're going to have to decide of what settings you use. You're going to have to decide on how to use Saber Sim going forward in baseball, and probably in all sports, because you're getting completely different builds and completely different risk profiles depending on what you do here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to build. Now, here's couple of questions. Number one, Well, there's several questions. Number one is what projections to use. So I am going to use my projections, except like one difference. Like I mentioned, I'm going to use the Milwaukee one. Okay. Actually, I do have actually a Logan Henderson projection. I didn't know why I didn't have it. So he's going to show up in there as well. And the next question is going to be, are we going to limit like stacks? In other words, are we going to demand to have only 5-man stacks, 4-man stacks? The answer is yes, sort of. What I'm going to do on this slate is I'm going to demand either a 5-man stack or 4-4. And that's pretty restrictive, actually, on a 6-game slate. Usually you want to let it roll a little bit, like allow the 4 threes. But just because you can get, so much, I mean, I may as well try to go for the full stack. So 5 threes, 5s, 5 2s, 4s, 4s. So I'm going to limit it pre-flop to that. The other thing is whether I'm going to be limiting anything like minimum or maximum exposure to any teams. And the answer, as usual, is going to be no. Minimum salary, I'll keep it 48,000. Just basically going with the SaberSim main settings. And then with respect to the contest sims, like which contests am I playing versus, whose fields am I going to use to compare my lineups to? I am playing one in the Mega 8s, 60 in the bat flip, one in the ball 4, and one in the battery. And as usual, I'm just going to go with the stock MLB field lineups. I found it extraordinarily difficult to improve upon them. So I'm not saying that I can't, might not be able to do better, but I find it extraordinarily difficult to do better. So I feel I'm just going to use those. So we'll build 10,000 lineups with 5-man stacks and 4-4s. We're going to use the regular contest fields. And the only question is going to be is whether we use this portfolio diversification tool. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at it both ways, okay? The way I have it set up kind of by default is to run through the whole process using the portfolio diversification settings. So we're going to do that first and then see what we end up getting. And then what we're going to do, just to compare, we're going to do the same builds, but then we're going to use just kind of like Min Uniques 2, Min Uniques 3. I want to say old school, but now like old new school, right? Like way of doing things. And just to show you like the difference that you're going to get. So I imagine that if we just go with portfolio diversification, the way that, the new SaberSim methods have you getting there, you probably end up getting a good amount of the Milwaukee and the Cleveland, like we talked about earlier. And as opposed to if we go just a straight Min Uniques where we rate them straight by ROI, you might end up getting a little bit different. So just to kind of even show you kind of what I'm talking about, I think it's worth the exercise. So you see what it's doing now. Now it is running the sims. It's comparing our 10,000 lineups against the field lineups that SaberSim is applying to the Mega 8s, then to the ball 4, then to the battery, then to the bat flip. And then it's actually, allocating my lineups in a way which is both customized to the actual contest and from a portfolio management perspective makes sense. Like the 84th, the 53rd lineup in the bat flip is taking into account what I have in the Mega 8s, theoretically. Okay. So now you'll see it's diversifying these lineups in a certain way. And then we'll see what kind of stuff that we get. Now, I don't really care what we get. I'm just doing it for illustrative purposes. So like you look at this, and as far as pitching goes, we'd be getting Cabrera, Castillo, Montas, those are the top owned guys. And then when it comes to the team stacks, as I mentioned, Milwaukee, Cleveland, actually Chicago shows up here. So it's not completely all chalk. Interestingly, by the way, what SaberSim now does is put money exposure. So as you'll see, because I have $1,200 in the exposure to Baltimore, I can accurately deduce that that's where my big buy-in is being apportioned, okay, which is fine. So I remember this, okay. So So when we do it just the regular way with portfolio diversification, this is what we'd end up getting. Now, again, this is my projections, my ownership, so your mileage may differ, so to speak. And when it comes to baseball, mileage differs quite extensively based on projections, based on everything. It's not like the NBA where 1 point's going to not make too much of a difference. If you're a little bit off in a baseball game, like everything's going to, it's like rocket ship theory. It's like 1 millimeter off, you're at Pluto instead of Neptune. So, don't be surprised if you run the same type of process I do with just straight SaberSim projections, you get completely different results. So the first thing I want to do before I compare it is I want to save all these. So let's save them all to the contest, just in case my computer crashes, just in case things go bad and something happens. I at least know that I put something in that has made some sense. Okay, and I think this is probably good practice for a lot of reasons. Also, the more reps you get in building, the better off you're going to be anyway. Okay. All right. So instead of sorting now by portfolio diversity, now I want to change it and go for the min uniques too. Okay. So for every one of these contests, it's not going to matter for the Mega 8, right? Because there was only one lineup in there. But here, we're going to get out of portfolio diversification mode and into just straight min uniques. And you'll see like something really dramatic happen, as I kind of alluded to earlier. Now, you'll see that Baltimore not only is the top money exposed line stack, but also now it's the highest overall expected. Now, instead of having Milwaukee as the top, now it's getting only 8% Milwaukee, and now we're getting like the 19% Minnesota, etc. And there's a reason for that. It's like when you're this portfolio diversification algorithm or whatever that they've implemented, it tries to represent more of a reflection of the whole pool of lineups you're creating than just jamming in the top ROI lineups. And what that does is it gets you a little, using the new portfolio diversification method, it gets you a little less unique, a little less aggressive, but in the long run, it gets you a little more smooth. So you have to decide, how you want to deal with this, whether you want to go for the min uniques method where you're going to probably end up much more aggressive, or you could play using the portfolio diversification method, which is going to get you a little more chalky, a little smoother, whatever. I will say that SaberSim is very aggressively recommending to use the portfolio diversification tool. I mean, it's saying that it's back tested this, pretty extensively, and it says it really outperforms the bless you. It really outperforms the min uniques method for going backwards, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know how comfortable I feel. It seems to be like always getting to this chalk when I use the portfolio diversification method. So maybe what I'll do is maybe I'll use for one site, I'll use portfolio diversity, and the other site I'll go min uniques. And again, that's not exactly the right way to do things, but I think it's at least reasonable while you're testing these processes to do it this way. So for this particular slate, I am going to go with this more aggressive setting, I guess, or approach on DraftKings, and go to and just use min uniques too. Okay. So yeah. So we'll do that. And now let me just see. Yeah, okay. Like you're asking, if I did it this way, as far as pitchers go, then I'd be getting Cabrera, Montas, Bassett, Cantillo. Colin Ray, I'm getting like nothing. Colin Ray, I'm getting like nothing, and Joey Cantillo, I'm still getting 25%, so that's fine. Okay, let's take a look at FanDuel now. And again, in advance what we're going to try to do. We're going to do kind of a much more sobering approach. We're going to do a lot more conservative. But let's take a look and see what FanDuel looks like. So FanDuel looks like it's really between two pitchers, right? It's going to be between DeGrom and Cease. like if you look at my value scores here, I mean, they really, really stand out. I mean, Cantillo would be the next one, but I'm going to find it difficult to believe. I'm going to find it difficult to get to anybody else. Let's put it this way. Besides DeGrom and Cease, I really, really doubt that anybody else is going to show up in my builds, but we'll see. We'll take a look at the FanDuel stacks and see what that might look like. FanDuel stacks, you'll have, wow. Oh, because Pittsburgh's still playing Colorado. So Pittsburgh's really standing out. And then after that, it's a bunch, Angels, Colorado, Arizona, Cleveland, Athletics. So again, I'll bet you that in portfolio diversification mode, we're going to get a bunch of Pittsburgh with either Cease or, DeGrom, and it's going to seem a little bit chalky. And then when we go into, to min uniques mode, maybe we don't get any Pittsburgh, but we're going to see. Okay, let's take a look. So we're going to go into FanDuel here. And let's see what we got. Tyler Heineman is out. All right, whatever. So same thing. We'll use the FanDuel or my projections. I have them right now, and we'll use there again Saber Sims contest fields. And with respect to the stacks, again, I want to be a little greedy here, so we're gonna use stack exposures. Nothing but 4 4s and 4 3s. Especially in a big slate, I think we can get away with this. So again, we'll build, I guess, 10,000 lineups. I just don't feel like waiting for 20. Everything else the same, and we're just going to fire. And again, we're going to do the same process. We're going to take a look at it from a portfolio diversification method. We're going to take a look at it from a min uniques, either 2 or 3 method, and compare them. And then again, just to kind of, I guess diversify our approach, like diversify our risk tolerance, we're going to probably opt for the portfolio diversification settings for FanDuel today. So I'm guessing that it's going to be more, it's going to be Pittsburgh plus X with their 6.5 total, and it's going to be probably DeGrom or Cease. Okay, let's see. We got something cool coming up, by the way, in 2 weeks. I made the finals, not the finals. I'm in the this WMBC, whatever, this FanDuel World Championship thing. I actually have 2 entries in it now. With it's 500,000 for first. I'm really looking forward to that. So I'm gonna I'll do a live lineup build for that, but it depends if it's a. I have to see what the rules are because, like in the live finals, they have they don't allow late swap because of collusion, things like that. I wonder if for this thing it's going to be the same. If they're not going to allow late swap, I'm gonna have to take a look at it. And again, it's obviously going to be a tough field because everybody that won like a $16,000 seat, so it's not like even to buy into those satellites wasn't very cheap. It was like $320 even for the satellite. So, okay. So again, it's going to go through the same process. First, it's going to build a 10,000. Then you're going to see it run the contest sims in the background. Then you're going to see it diversify the portfolio, and then we're going to be able to take a look at it. All right. So you see, by the way, interestingly, they do put these in a particular order. They have the monster up in first, then they have squeeze, and then they have. Oh, that's nice, Andy. Yeah, this one isn't a live final. This one is just happens to be like they call it some championship. I have my own thoughts, by the way, on these live finals. I went to one. I made one, and I brought Mrs. Sheets to this one in Arizona. I mean, it was a good trip to Arizona. I thought the actual handling of the live final was very poor. I thought they could have done a much better job with the actual live final, with the sweat. They could have had announcers talking about who had what. It was very, very odd. It was a very odd experience, the actual live final. So I do have some thoughts on that for DraftKings, but they don't care. All right. Well, I shouldn't say that. Maybe they care, but they're not going to do anything because I said so. That's for sure. All right, so diversifying lineups. So again, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take a look and see what we would get in portfolio diversification mode. And as you'll see, as I predicted, 77% of the pitchers are encompassed by DeGrom and Cease. Okay, that's what I figured. And then, a little bit along the way. And as far as team stacks, as I mentioned, I knew this was going to happen. 34% Pittsburgh, Colorado Angels down the list. So again, it's this whole new thing is getting some pretty chalky exposures for SaberSim users or for SaberSim believers when it used to just not be that way. I mean, it used to be, you remember this Rhodey, you just jam in whoever the top pitcher was, you just jam in 75% of whoever they're playing. And it's just not the way it is once they've started to get into this portfolio diversification game. So again, they're decisions. So we're going to save this for now. And again, we're playing one of the monsters, 60 in the squeeze and 150 in the rally. But again, just to show you what the difference would be if we went from portfolio diversity mode into Min Uniques 2. Let's see. So now your top owned team is going to be Texas, and Pittsburgh is going to be secondary. So, again, it just depends on what level of risk you want to take. And I'll tell you, you know what? Just because I'm feeling saucy, screw it. Let's go with this. Actually, let's kick it old school. Let's get aggressive. F the chalk. F portfolio diversity, and we'll just go with the more aggressive approach. It's not this totally crazy, right? I mean, Texas looks pretty good. They correlate with DeGrom. Why not? Who died and said Pittsburgh's just going to score 17 runs a game like they did the other day? Okay. All right, and up we go, and we're good to go. Okay. So that's the deal. You know what I mean with baseball, and I'm curious, Rhodey, what this is going to look like in football season. I'm very interested. Now, the other thing I will say, by the way, is that FanDuel is a little bit different than DraftKings with respect to late swap. Okay, because again, in FanDuel we extend into these 4:00 games. So you better be around at 3:00 to swap. Okay. I still get some Colorado and Pittsburgh, but not nearly as much as I would have in the other settings. One thing I want to look at real quick before let's make sure that nobody got ruled out in the last 10 minutes. So I'm going to go straight into NASCAR, and then when I do that, I'm going to forget to check. Yep, see, there it is. Somebody's out. All right, so here we go. So who is out here? So Tyler Heineman is out for Toronto. So for now, we're just going to take his out, put in Naylor. I mean, I don't need to rerun all the projections just because Heineman's out. I mean, you could. If you had a fast enough computer, you probably should. But I don't have that. I'm not in that. I don't care. I mean, if I lose because Heineman being out, I didn't rerun everything, then, someone's better than me. Let's do the same thing with FanDuel. Let's just see if I had Heineman in any of these. He's the one guy that got ruled out that I had a projection for. Let's see. Yep, here we go. It's very helpful to have this big red lightning bolt here. And also Lawrence Butler is out. So we'll just straight swap those out for now. Okay. By the way, I got to hang out with Bobby last couple of days. He came out. We went to the Yankee game. Then he came out to Fire Island to Evan's house. Hung out there yesterday, and got to meet Bobby's girlfriend. Very, very nice. I give. I think that I'll put this out there. I think it's -2. No, I shouldn't say anything because he hasn't said anything. I would say -300. They are engaged within 2 years. That's going to be my. That's my unofficial prediction. Maybe not -300, but -220. That they're engaged within 2 years. That's going to be my thing. And there's, I don't know if he can get it done in a year, but maybe 2 years. We'll see. We shall see. But very, very nice girl. They're very, very good together, and she'll. She's good for him because she, is not going to let him keep playing the Dodgers every day. You know what I mean? Like, she's going to say, you know what, just because you're a Dodger fan doesn't mean you have to stack the Dodgers every single day. Okay, so she's good for him in that regard. All right. Any other questions about baseball before we really transition to something I know nothing about? Okay. All right. So now we are going to, we did our baseball stuff. Now we are going to NASCAR lineup building. Okay. Now everybody's LOLing, but I've been doing very, very well in these sports. I had a nice hit in F1 last week. I was really close with all the cheese, by the way. And here's Brandon. There he is.
Hello.
There he is. So we've added, now between the two of us, we know something. You know what I mean? Because one of us knows nothing, and the other one knows everything. And I'm going to add my kind of lineup building skills to his knowing everything skills, and see if we can't figure this out. Now, you did go live for a half hour and talk about some stuff before?
Brandon? Yes, I did do that. However, I do want to also add a parlay to Bobby's thing he just talked about.
Okay.
It's probably the same odds for me within the next 2 years.
Oh, let's go.
So,
yeah, but you can't put your own odds out, I don't think.
No, I can't. But I could just announce whatever the odds would be. I would add both of our engagements.
Right, but you can't. But you can't accept because you're in control of the action. You know what I mean? So someone else has to put the odds on you. That's. But good luck with that. Okay, so before I even look at anything, I'm going to look at my projections. I did a little bit of work. I'm actually getting. I don't want to say good at this, Brandon, but I'm getting decent at it. I've tried to learn how to simulate a little bit with some other stuff with point projections and ownership projections. I still kind of understate some of like the real chalk. Like just when I think I'm saying, okay, this can be like 50%, they end up being like 70. So I still kind of understate that a little bit, but I'm getting a little bit better. So before I even run builds, I mean, I just kind of pull this thing up on my screen here, like every other freaking sport. And a few things I notice is that the top owned guys look to be the place differential guys, right? So between Kyle Busch, 8,200 from the 48 hole or wherever the hell he is, 37, and then Ross Chastain at 8,500 from the 28 hole. Those look like to be over 30%, over 40. And then you have Bell at 17 from the 17, and then you have Kyle Larson coming out of the 3 hole. He's going to be, looks like a good play and popular, and Byron looks like a good play and popular. And then you have I'm looking down the list here. I'm trying to separate like guys that are going to get to the front and guys that are not. You have Chase Briscoe. I'm looking here. I have him projected like 36% ownership, like higher than like a lot of these guys. I guess having the pole is kind of a big deal. Let me ask you a question before he just runs. How many laps is this like is this a track where we're going to, rack up a lot of points for leading laps and things like that?
Yeah, it's 350 laps.
Oh my.
So yeah.
Okay.
I do want to add, since you're talking about your ownership, yours is the owner, or your ownership is what I primarily use if I'm going to be looking at
Oh, God help me.
ownership or having anything. And
Okay.
usually, even if it's not within a points range that is, satisfying, as you stated, sometimes you have it for 50 and like, everybody jams somebody in for 70. It's usually in line from a numerical order of like, this guy
Okay.
was highest owned, this guy was second, this guy was third.
Okay, that's good. So who? I mean, before we run, who again? Like you don't have to give everything, but like so he does. So again, things are a little different now with the stuff. I think like Brandon, like he he doesn't give like his picks and his takes to like everybody anymore. You know what I mean? Like we have like a premium stuff, right?
Yeah, I still do. I still do paywall shows and stuff like that. But
Right.
I was, I'm
So
still
I
pretty
mean,
open about stuff.
yeah. So I mean, again, the way I always looked at NASCAR fundamentally, like before I got into like using the Sims or whatever, I always thought about this in terms of like the way I look at like harness racing. You know what I mean? It's like they're like who's getting to the front. Okay, if you figure out who's getting to the front, you're off to a good start. Okay, and when you're in a track like this, like Bob, like Brandon was saying, where there's all kinds of points to be had by getting to the front, it's even more important to figure out who's getting to the front. So you have Briscoe, Byron, and Larson look to be the main guys that could quote unquote get to the front. And like I guess the first question is like when you build, like when you use Saber Sim or whatever you build, do you still do stuff like I want a minimum of one of these or a maximum of two of these or anything like that? Like if you played like all three of these, it would seem to me that you'd be like taken away from each other, because like they can't all, unless you get it all right and like they each lead like a third of the laps or something like that. Then one guy is being priced in a way that they're expecting him to lead some laps, and they're not going to lead them all because these other guys are out there. Like how do you deal with, especially on a track like this, where you're really competing for a lot of dominator points?
Usually on a track like this, especially when your favorites to lead laps are starting 1, 2, 3, normally I usually try and especially when they're projected to be that well, not just on your stuff, but on mine, and I assume across the industry, I usually try and get at least 2 of those 3 drivers in. Now, because there are 350 laps, that is a significant amount of DraftKings points for both laps led and fast laps, obviously. So races like this, you can find an avenue to where if you are so inclined to jam all 3 of them in, punting at the very bottom of the salary range to jam all those guys in, that has a much higher hit rate on these tracks versus ones that don't have as much laps. But that's generally what I do is if it's 3 drivers like this, I usually at least want 2 in each lineup.
The other thing I would ask is this okay? There's a lot of laps, so it's obviously a small track, right? So but is it a track where it's so small that it's like impossible to pass? In other words, like Kyle Busch is going to be 40% owned. He's from the 37 hole. So for him to justify 40% ownership, he's probably has to finish in the top 15, I guess, right? Or something like that. Is it hard, like given his obviously he's got a better car than a lot of guys inside of him, but is it better enough? And is the track conducive? I mean, can he get past 22 guys?
So, I mentioned this in the show as well, and not because like, oh, watch the show. No, I'm just answering the question and stuff. This race last year, there was 14 drivers left on the lead lap at the end of the race, and then there was a section of 8 cars, 2 laps down, another group of 6 cars that were 3 or so, and so in the range of outcomes like there, I think there is a significant amount of risk that Kyle Busch could, and same thing with Chastain, even Preece, and Busher, if they aren't saved early by a potential yellow in stage 1, there is a realistic chance that they could all be trapped a lap down at some point in this race, with Kyle Busch being the most at risk for that, just because he did wreck his car in practice, and this is a backup car with no laps on it. So I think Kyle Busch is probably the riskier of the chalk plays in this race, just for those reasons.
Now again, I'm just kind of making this up, but I overheard, like, as I was looking at 75 different things. Is this some kind of qualifier in something like this race? Like, is there talk about like you have to finish in a certain spot to advance? Like some drivers have different motivations than others, or is that not?
No, that was ended last week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we don't have to worry about that at all.
Okay, fair enough. So, I mean, listen, this is just the way I do it. Okay, so the first, like every other sport, the first decision you have to make, there's all sorts of decisions you have to make. So this is where I really want to talk to people about SaberSim if you use it, because SaberSim is now getting, I don't want to say a bad rap, I guess they might consider it a good rap. They're getting this rap that, okay, are you using SaberSim and just, just clicking buttons and just having it do its thing and you're not putting any input in, it's just whatever. There's so, to think of it that way is really short-sighted, because at every step along the way, there's some very, very critical decisions you have to make. So like SaberSim is just going to just do what it does after you tell it what to do. You know what I mean? Like you have to make these very important decisions along the way, and don't forget how important some of them are. So like the very first decision, well, first of all, you have to make is what contest you play. So, but that's not even a decision really. You decide to play these contests. I uploaded them into the contest files. But before we even get to that, the first thing is, what projections do you even use? And when you're on True DFS, like for example, I have access to like a zillion. You know what I mean? I could use Brandon's, I could use my own, I could use SaberSim's. And when you let's say you access SaberSim from, say, Run Pure or from Ship It Nation, whatever, you might have the option to use theirs and SaberSim's, or average them, or whatever it is. And as you know, I mean, once you start messing around, it really just, it's like rocket ship theory. Like if you're off by like 2 points with one guy, you might end up in Pluto instead of Neptune, and your whole builds could be different. So that's the first question. Now, what I do, I am not a fan, I'll just say, of averaging. Okay, in NASCAR. Okay, there's some sports where I don't mind averaging projection sets, but the reason why I don't like it in NASCAR is because, I don't know if you do it this way, but what especially with the algorithms, what they do is they're very specific. Like if they project one guy to get third place, that's going to affect why the projection on the guy that projected to get sixth is different. You know what I mean? So at least you take one projection set, it makes sense at least to itself. Like if you're averaging them all, it's just kind of mishmash. So
it just muddies the water of what
exactly. You're comparing apples to oranges. So I would almost rather you just pick one you like and just go with it. You know what I mean? At least it makes sense to itself at least. So I'm going to use mine, but that's, you can use whatever. And here's another interesting thing you could click or not. So this says automatically create custom fields for ownership. And what this does, well, you should always do it, but what this does, it gives you the option to change the contest fields if in fact you are going to run contest sim. So what SaberSim does is it's going to, produce these contest fields based on its own ownership, based on its back testing, whatever that means, about what they feel the rest of the field is going to do. And when you're running the contest sims, whatever field you're comparing it to, that's going to severely impact what lineups you end up getting. Okay, so you have to decide whether to use the SaberSim contest fields or use no contest fields at all, or whatever. And so one thing that you can do is, if you have really good faith in your own ownerships, is you could replace the SaberSim ones with your own. And so I created in field. I did one earlier too. It's just funny, but it says sheets. That's what I used for today. And what I am going to do is, specifically for the lottery, I am going to use my own ownerships to make my own contest fields. And the reason why I won't do that with the other contests is that my ownership projections are specifically for the lottery. Okay. As a matter of fact, hold on. I have to actually, I played a couple more lineups, so I actually have to. So funny, I forgot to do this. I have to re-upload these because there are a couple of more lineups in here. But what I was going to say is that I feel as though that my ownerships are specifically for the lottery. So it's kind of silly for me to then say also, okay, I'm going to also replace the contest fields for the for the bigger buy-ins. Okay. So let's just see here. Hold on. It looks like it's slowing up on me just a little bit.
I want to say while it's loading, obviously I'm also a huge fan of what SaberSim's implemented with their new updates this year. I think they've made significant improvements across the board, but NASCAR is still an anomaly, not just for SaberSim, but in general. I mean, this is still the most volatile sport of them all. And it's very, very difficult to be good at NASCAR at the end of the day with how much can change within the last like 5 to 10 laps of these. Just for people who are here listening, obviously.
I mean, I'll tell you what. I mean, again, only because I know Andy like for a long time. I mean, I could talk about it in this way. Is that what was I going to say? Is that I mean, Stukas and I, we've all, you know, you guys both. I mean, we've been very, very vocal about this. That SaberSim is something, I don't say wrong, but they just haven't really done the greatest job simulating these races yet. There's just like a lot of flaws in it. Not that they're not that's. It's hopeless, but and all I can promise you, it will get better if they work on it. You know, and it's like you said, it's a very, very unique sport, and it's very, very difficult to do, and it's hyper volatile, and it's more volatile than even the people think. You know, it's like, what's the big deal? 38 cars, you know, they'll line up around the racetrack, and you know, I know who's going to win. Kyle Larson's going to win. So how hard is this? You know what I mean? It's really hard. It's really hard. So you'll see what I did. I did So funny. So I used Sheets Cup here, but instead I'm going to actually change this to just Sheets. This is a different one that I used. And then the rest I'm going to just go straight to, okay, so in the World Championship qualifier, that one we're going to use high stakes. So we'll do high stakes, single entry for that. For the wind tunnel, definitely high stakes. We'll use theirs, high stakes. We'll use high stakes single entry, I guess, for that too. Here for single entry, this one we'll just use just flagship single entry. And this one here, okay. So again, these decisions are really, really important, you know, because it's going to really, really affect everything. Okay. Next thing you have to ask is, do you want to make any changes pre-flop? In other words, do I want to say, like you said, right from the beginning, I don't care what happens. I want one of the top three starting position guys, you know, that I liked, you know, between Briscoe, Byron, and Larson. Okay. And if you want to do that, you'll go into groups and you can make that work. Okay. The other way you could do it if you want is you could do that after you build your lineups. You want to do that as well. So that's obviously that's a decision you have to make. I personally don't do any of that. And I think it's for ignorance, sort of, and ignorance, not like a demeaning way, like ignorance in that I just don't know. You know what I mean? Like it's ignorance in kind of almost an intelligent way. I don't know what groups to make, and I'd rather just kind of let the sims, as flawed as they may be, you know what I mean? Like I just kind of just roll with that as opposed to me kind of overcoming that. I do recommend that if you do know ball, so to speak, like if you do know about NASCAR, that I think this is a sport where you should kind of do a little of that. Now, I've had this argument with Stukas before too. He's like, well, you know, why use groups if you're then just gonna, you know, sim it anyway? I'm like, I get it, totally get that too, totally get it. But I have to feel as though there's got to be something that you can do with knowing ball in NASCAR as far as making these groups. I just don't. And the other thing before I start running is minimum salary. I will leave it very, very low. Max salary, I'm not going to intentionally leave money on the table. And then it's just a question of just there's one more decision we're going to have to make, which we're going to get to. Okay. So while this is running, if you want to add anything, so what's going on in the background for those of you that, you know, again, you've been here for baseball, it's the same thing, right? I'm building 10,000 lineups. And then what it's doing is it is then comparing those 10,000 lineups to the fields that we have assigned in the contest fields. And it's ostensibly, you know, suggesting which lineup should go where. And not only that, but, and that's what it's doing here, 0, 5, 0, you know, 1 of 5. It's simming against these contests. But then what it's doing, and this is now the new battleground, is then it's applying this new portfolio diversification setting to it, where it's not just cramming in the top ROI lineups. What it's doing is smoothing it out such that, again, I don't know all the algorithm. I don't know the back numbers, so it's hard for me to say exactly what it's doing, which is another problem. But the result of it is that you're getting a much chalkier build than you did before. I don't know if it's going to be the same in NASCAR as it is for a sport like baseball, but like we say, we're going to find out. So what we've done is we've done it in portfolio diversity mode. That's why it says portfolio plus, portfolio plus, portfolio plus. And we'll just take a look at it, and we'll look at the exposures, and we'll just see. So 59% Bell, 56% Bowman, 44% Priest, 43% Busch. This is actually sort of interesting, right? These didn't look like the highest owned guys when we were first looking at it. Here's another thing, by the way, Saberson just added this dollar exposure column, which is actually very important. So you know how much money you have riding on these guys. So so Bowman, Buescher, Wallace, Bell, Chastain. So the first thing I'm going to do is enter them, okay? And then what we're going to do is then we're going to compare this to what this would look like if we just went in kind of the old, kind of the new old, but like the old new version, which would be just putting a certain amount of min uniques in. And I want to just see the difference between what playing it this way looks. So you have to sort of remember. So Bowman, Buescher, Wallace, Bell, and Chastain this way. And then if we go instead, we go say min uniques 2, min uniques 2, min uniques 2. And again, for some of these contests, it doesn't matter because it's only one lineup. And then min uniques 2, let's see how this changes things. So now it's a lot different, right? So now you're getting 67% Bowman. You know what I mean? And that's a pretty freaking aggro stance, right? So 67% Bowman as opposed to when we were just looking at portfolio diversification mode where it was a lot more spread out. So you're now at this crossroads again where you have to decide. You know, you have to decide what you want to do. Like, do you want to go into full aggro mode, or do you want to go into portfolio diversification mode and smooth things out? And unfortunately, I don't know the answer. I just don't. I just for funsies, I'm gonna actually just stick to that portfolio diversification mode, only because I went like hyper aggro mode in baseball.
Yeah.
so we're just kind of do it that way. And that's kind of like what kind of the process has been. Now, again, as far as like knowing ball stuff, like, is Bowman even like a good play? I mean, I didn't even look at it. I mean, like.
So personally, for me, I like Bowman a lot today, but specifically so this is what I typically do and how I use SaberSim for NASCAR. Since NASCAR is the only sport that I still hand build or hand okay every lineup that I play. And I'll usually spend, an hour or so looking at how lineups are constructed, obviously, if you're maxing, you can only do 150. Most people are doing anywhere from 5 to 25 lineups or whatever. But usually over the course of a day, if you're looking at 1,000, potentially 1,500 or 2,000 lineups that are built, you'll start to see how the builds are coming together. And so specifically when you were on the reason why those lineups change so much is when you look at the salary constraints for today's race, most of the builds are landing in the 8 and 7K range. So even if you are using drastically different people in the 10K range and stuff, most lineups are centering to be using 2 to 3 people, from Chris Buescher at 87,000 to Ryan Preece at 7,000. So in that range you have Chastain, Buescher, Kyle Busch, Bowman, Preece. And so whenever you start, and this is just for the people listening and for yourself, whenever you start doing more min uniques, initially the min uniques will start coming out of not that range, since all the lineups are coming, basically, the core of the lineup is coming from the 7 and 8K range. The min uniques will start, appearing from the 10K range and the super low salary first. As you get more aggressive, once you start breaking apart the core aspect of your lineups in the 7 and 8K range, that's why you end up, getting people like Alex Bowman, or how drastically it shifted off of Chastain, Kyle Busch, and Busher, because once it starts doing mini uniques in that range, then like all the lineups are completely I don't know, distraught, different, versus what the field is doing. That's why it seems so aggressive on this slate specifically.
So what do we got here? So Austin, do we know Austin? Does he know anything? Is Austin any good at this?
I mean, he's watching our stuff. I don't know Austin, but
I don't know.
he's
What do we
here,
think, Austin?
so that's
we like this plus top 10 here. We like Bowman top 10 plus 240. Is that good?
See. What do I got?
Let's see what we got here. Bowman top 10. Where is he?
I have Bowman for 10th today.
You have him for 10. Wait, so I have top 10 here. He has him at plus 240. I can get him minus 105. Gee, thanks, Austin. How'd you get that? Okay.
Oh,
yeah, exactly. Anything here stand out here? Let's see, top 10, top 5. I mean, I presume that all these lines are terrible just because like all prop lines are terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just kind of guessing. How about top 5? How about that, Austin? You like that? A plus 320? Okay.
I don't like any of these.
Oh, you bet. Wow, you got that much action, Austin? From plus 240 to minus. Wow. That's crazy. You know what I think it was? I think everybody followed the Austin steam.
Uh-huh.
I think that's what happened. So next time, just keep, at least you kept it to yourself. Let everybody take the terrible line of minus 110. Okay, so that's pretty much. Listen, I wish I knew more, but that's pretty much what I'm gonna do, and just kind of like let it fly. Now, I will say, by the way, Austin, I disagree. Well, short tracks suck. It might suck for like race watching or whatever, but they're actually pretty helpful for NASCAR DFS sweating at least. I mean, at least like you have an idea of how well you're doing. You know what I mean? Like it's not like you're in Daytona where, listen, it's great. It's $1 million for first, and it's like kind of like cool at the end. But when you literally just don't even bother looking like the whole day until the last like 3 laps, it doesn't even matter. So and the good thing about short tracks is that they can never take away your dominator points.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
once you surpass at least 80, of laps led, you're somewhat safe in case they run into an issue.
Well, lines move a lot after the qualifier. Oh, well, I imagine. Oh, so you probably if you bet it a few days ago before they even knew what his post position was, I guess that made a difference. Okay, so we did baseball, we did NASCAR. I mean, listen, the reality, Brandon, as you all know, is we're all just playing for second because Crafty Lefty is going to win. But I'll take second. Second's very, very strong. So hopefully he does well. Well, I'm not worried about him, but hopefully Brandon does well. Hopefully everybody does well. Hopefully people learn a little something, and we will see what happens.
I do want to add really fast. I mentioned this in my show, but I've been playing a lot of MLB just slates the last like 3 weeks. Like pretty much every day I've played in some form or fashion, and like at least every other day I've had a pretty decent sweat. And like even right now I'm 5th in the 2-gamer for the one that started today, like an hour and a half ago. So I am very much in favor of what SaberSim has changed from that product. I know you mentioned earlier in the video you're very curious on what it's going to do for NFL. I think based on what it's showing for this or for MLB, I think it's going to be a really, really good product for NFL.
Well, let's before listen, as long as we're doing this is like in the name of transparency. Like I always want to show people just exactly what I'm doing. So I forgot that I am playing the FanDuel. So I'm going to build the FanDuel lineups here. Well, actually, I'm not. These are not the FanDuel slates. Yeah, why am I so under on some of these guys? I don't know, but I'm well under on some of these guys on FanDuel. It's like very interesting. So you know what? We're going to go with that. Now, FanDuel, again, the problem with FanDuel, among other things, is that, I mean, it's just Dupe City, USA. I mean, it's like so hard to get different here. Well, just to show you what this is.
Did you play the Hall of Fame slate or the Hall of Fame?
The football? No.
FanDuel now has 6 players. It's identical to DraftKings now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, let's go.
So should be significantly less duplications on FanDuel.
But what's the deal? Is it the salaries 1.5x just like DraftKings?
Yeah,
no?
I think everything. If I'm wrong, I do apologize, but I'm pretty sure everything is 1.5x with 6 total players now. So it should be identical to DK.
Okay.
Entering this year.
Did you play FanDuel today or no?
No, I did not.
What's the difference? Now, correct me if I'm wrong. The one difference in FanDuel is that FanDuel rewards position more.
Yes, FanDuel prioritizes finishing well versus because there's no fast laps and laps led are so small in there. It prioritizes finishing position and finishing well.
So there's no actual dominator points there awarded.
It's like I think it's 0.1 for a lap led, whereas on DraftKings it's 0.25.
Okay, well, so it's something. It's just not whatever. Okay, let me just finish this. Look at all this money being left on the table on FanDuel. That is what it is. And then we shall be done. Practice times aren't everything, but Byron and Elliott look great. Okay. And we should be done. Okay. Is there racing next week?
Yes, there is. This is the last F1 race until the end of August, though. Or today was.
Oh no, today's was? Yeah, and I did bad today. Yes, last week I did well. This week I was terrible. Listen, it's all good. It's always healthy, in my opinion, to play all these other sports. Mm-hmm. Did I see you? Did you do something with the League of Legends the other day?
I mean, I played esports like every day. I finished like second or third. I did that. I took down an MLB thing 2 days ago. Did another one. I mean, I'm playing like the best DFS of my life right now, but I can't take down any. I haven't done anything in NASCAR this year. Like it has been so close yet so far.
Yep. So let's pull your sweat up real quick. So what are you are you in the 2-game slate? Let's take a look.
It's the 2-gamer.
What is that? The relay throw?
Yeah, it has
10K for first showdown. No.
No. It's the second. Yeah, it's the relay throw.
Relay throw, 2K for first turbo, right?
Yeah. Okay. At least right now, as we speak right now, in a train for fourth.
Train for fourth, which is this one right here. Yeah. So 86 points. And you have Yamamoto, Giolito. They're going to get win. Giolito's going to get a win. So that's worth 4, right? Edmund is out. That sucks.
Yeah. I don't know if he got injured. That just happened while we were talking. But all goes back to I'm very satisfied with what SaberSim is offering now.
So this is so you're no, you're not in a train because you have a different lineup, I think.
Well, I have not been looking. I mean, I've been doing this.
You definitely have a different lineup because you have less innings. See what I'm saying? So you have Rafaela, and you don't have Pajes. You know what I mean? So this is good. I mean, even though you have one less, I mean, I think it's better this way.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll root for that, and